Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the Director of Industry Outreach and Growth for CSIA. Welcome to this masterclass. Before we get started, a quick word about CSIA. Probably most of you here today are familiar with the association, but if you are not, all you really need to know is that CSIA's mission is to help SIs build better businesses. How do we do that? Well, for starters, we have a team of volunteer SIs who have crowdsourced a best practices manual to help SIs scale their businesses. CSIA also offers a certification program and many other resources and benefits, including professional development, learning from your peers, and access to professional services experts, including insurance, financial, and legal, who understand the SI's unique business needs. For partner members, CSIA offers an ecosystem to grow your SI programs, understand your customers' pain points, monitor industry trends, and share your thought leadership. Holly, could you advance the slide, please? And one more. Let's see. With thousands of qualified integrators and suppliers, the CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange helps SIs, industry suppliers, and manufacturers connect and do business. For SIs and partners, it provides a platform to support your content and SEO marketing efforts, position yourself as a thought leader, and nurture prospects during their complicated buyer's journey. Next slide, please. If you are not currently a member, now is a great time to join. Membership provides you and your entire team with a full lineup of virtual events and other resources, from accounting to sales to operations, 365 days per year. Plus, being a CSIA member means you get special pricing for the CSIA Executive Conference in addition to other resources. Next slide, please. If you are currently a member, thank you. Membership renewals are currently underway. If you are the primary or billing contact, you should have received notifications via email. If you have not, please check your spam filter. I'm noticing a lot of legit email is getting trapped because IT departments are locking things down with good reason. A lot of bad actors out there. If you have any questions about the renewal process, you can contact anyone on the CSIA staff. One last housekeeping note before I turn it over to today's speaker. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom versus the chat, because that helps keep us organized. And before somebody pops up in the chat, yes, the session is being recorded and you will get a link to the recording in the next day or so. At this time, I would like to turn it over to today's speaker, Matt Lee. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. My name is Matt Lee. I'm one of the co-founders here at Copia Automation. Today, pretty excited to talk to you about just general efficiencies and productivity gains that you can realize in industrial automation with modern DevOps workflows. And so we'll just quickly get started. And again, any questions, our team's here to answer, and I'm more than happy to stick around as well. So really at a kind of a high level to just get everyone on the same page. What our mission here at Copia is to just bring modern DevOps or developer operations toolings to industrial automation. The real goal is to standardize processes to increase overall organizational efficiency and scale productivity for industrial organizations. Throughout the rest of these slides, I'll touch on what DevOps is, what DevOps can enable and has enabled, at least in the IT space, and how that can translate to the OT space. The foundation of DevOps will focus on quite a bit, also known as Git. We'll also talk about the benefits of what Git delivers to organizations, and we'll go over a few case studies as well. Just some background on who we are. We were founded about 2.5 years ago by my co-founder Adam and me to just really bring DevOps to industrial automation. To date, we've raised around $16 to $17 million in Series Seed and A funding from top investors that are focused and have a lot of knowledge in foundational technology and industrial technology. Currently, we're about 32 to 33 members of the team, and those members really come across the spectrum. We've made it a very important concerted effort to hire staff from the IT space. We have folks from Amazon, from Google, but also really from the more industrial and the OT space. So we do have folks from MDT, from Altium, myself, Dassault Systems, application engineer from B&R. So I'm really kind of approaching this space by saying, hey, we want to bring, again, the IT expertise of DevOps and kind of mesh them with experts and engineers from that OT space as well. But before I define what DevOps is, what we've noticed, sorry, let me move this out of the way. What we've noticed in a lot of industrial organizations over the past something odd years is that a lot of these teams are using error-prone and manual processes that really kind of affect their quality, their efficiency, and overall operating uptime. So see here, the left side, what we've very commonly seen is a lack of backups, an old way of storing files, constant manual testing, manual methods of deployment, and limited observability of kind of what's going on overall. And as we know, kind of the consequences of what we see is additional downtime, regressions and bugs in the overall product, expensive changes, and again, just a lack of visibility overall. So again, DevOps practices that are in IT have been built and have been used to solve those exact issues, right? And so before I go on, for me, it took some time, but the way I like to explain what DevOps is really a combination of, let's say, a way of working, kind of a culture, and the appropriate tools that really enable organizations to deliver code and projects faster and more reliably. And so you'll see on the bottom, the IT DevOps approach, which is already standardized and used across all software industries, is by using Git, which leads to fast recovery. And again, Git is source control and code collaboration. We do see that these companies utilize automated testing, so they're catching issues much earlier. They have sophisticated ways of managing their deployment, which kind of just makes, again, overall efficiency of deployments and utilizes less engineers and a lot less manual aspects to deploy code. And there are tons of observability and monitoring solutions, which allow you to track every single thing that's going on into your code base and subsequently in the production environment. And so why is that important? So one thing I can really say is in the IT world, it's been proven that DevOps means more time building. And I think it was a few years ago, I was talking to an integrator and they had mentioned that there tends to be firefighters and cowboys, and a lot of time is just spent putting out fires, kind of redoing work and kind of going back through that. The studies in the IT space have at least shown that this prevents a lot of fires from happening in the first place, which then leads organizations to spend time on new work. And new work for industrial automation, especially integrators, to us means more projects, more revenue, and a more efficient use of engineers. So what I'm going to really quickly start on today is Git. It is considered the root of all DevOps. It is going to be the foundation of your code base. It's going to be where you store your code, understand what's going on. It's how you collaborate with multiple people, collaborate with distributed teams, work offline, work online. It just has numerous benefits. So one reason why we decided to go with Git is because this is quite frankly what source control looks like today. You might have a project name, you might have an underscore, a date, maybe a name, maybe a version number. If you think about trying to go and debug code, I've seen many people just click on every file, wait for it to open up a compare tool, figure out what happened, take a screenshot, send that. Just the sheer hours of an engineer doing that manual work, again, is error prone and it's very time consuming. I would say that we hire talent to go and make awesome work and do awesome projects. We want to avoid our top talent really just spending time doing administrative work and doing tedious tasks. The other thing is Git is proven. So Git is old and trustworthy and reliable technology. And so I pulled these stats from a very large study on Git. It was 30 to 40,000 individuals in the IT space. And what they saw was reduction in time for onboarding and training by around 40%. 85 of respondents also said that Git in general helps them write and deploy better code. And overall, there is a big increase in developer satisfaction. And I think this part is especially important as we've been seeing a surge in kind of hiring for controls and automation engineers in the industry, is that organizations that provide proper tooling and modern tooling to their engineers just provides them, again, more ergonomic and modern workflows, less headaches, and again, kind of helps with that employee retention and overall satisfaction. The other thing is Git is the future, and we fully believe in this. It's ubiquitous in IT, and millions upon millions of people use it every month. The application that we're using right now, Zoom, was built and stored. The code is stored in Git. The slide technology I'm using has been built and stored within Git. We also see that more and more industrial vendors are actually building Git integrations, and we predict that nearly all industrial vendors will have some kind of Git integration. They are also aware that Git is the future. And one reason this hasn't been big is because a lot of this progress has been held back by, in particular, IEC languages and industrial file types. Traditional Git technologies such as GitHub and GitLab just don't work with binary file types. They'll just come up as unreadable. And that specific problem is what we solve. For today, I will be using Copia as the prime example for how Git is used, because right now it is primarily the only Git solution that can render these binary files. So the main takeaway is, even if you don't use Copia, we would really encourage people to look into other technologies, Git technologies, but the specific advantage that we provide is that we work natively with industrial file types and the vendors, the POC vendors themselves. And particularly for the CSIA, what we've noticed is that SIs are the perfect industrial Git users. Throughout the past few years, integrators have been very hyper engaged with Copia and our content. And systems integrators look a lot like traditional IT software teams. The way that they develop and the focus on development is very similar to what you would see on the IT software development side. So really, what it all comes down to is all the benefits of Git really start to strongly accrue to systems integrators. So in general, what's Git? It was made by the inventor of Linux. It's 15 to 20 years old now. Again, it is ubiquitous. I have been seeing it in many other industries outside of just software development, such as electrical engineering, even mechanical engineering, design, architecture, whatever there's so many industries using the technology now. The technology itself is distributed. I'll go into what distributed means, but it can work offline and online and really supports kind of a wide range of remote work and people out in the field, people at the office. It's just very flexible in how it works. And one core feature of Git is the concept of branching and merging, not locking. So we'll kind of also go into branching and merging. It just enables engineers to be much more fluid and flexible with their files. And it doesn't, if someone's working on a file, you won't prevent another engineer from working on a different part of the file. It just enables a lot more collaborative and multi-user workflows. So in general, how does Git drive productivity improvements? A very simple aspect is just shared code in general. It's stored centrally in a repository, but enables your team and even collaborators such as subcontractors or even your customers to find the code that they want if you give them access to it. And it really enables organizations to create templates and standardized versions of their code. which is also easily findable. There's a unique aspect also called a merge flow, which enables multiple engineers to start working on one project file, which again leads to faster delivery of projects. It also enables code review. So again, you can catch issues much earlier. And you can also train junior engineers a lot easier by having a senior engineer mentor them, review their code and see what's going on. And it can really kind of help develop that engineer much quicker. And in general, just revision history. If you had a bad version of the code now, how easy is it for you to go and find the last best working version of that code? Git enables you to go back to maybe 5 or 6 versions ago, quickly see what's the difference between those two codes and revert back to that very quickly as well. So a lot of benefits such as, again, just quality, speed, training, onboarding, and a lot of these aspects. So really kind of going back to that initial archive folder, modern source control, right? What real benefit does that really bring as well over the archive folder? Version control really allows for more granular snapshots. And these snapshots, if you see below, really bring context. So you start understanding who changed that code, what changed in that code, when it was changed, and really importantly, why, right? And the archive folder, you see, very difficult to understand what the code, who or why the code changed. You saw earlier it was just file, date, most likely that's going to be it. And that's probably the case for 80+% of our customers. You can also actually control access to specific repositories, but it also enables you to collaborate with external partners much easier. You can say, hey, to your customer or subcontractor, I only want you to see this repository, or I want you to only see this version of this code. And I'm going to make that a lot easier and a lot smoother. Whereas you see the archive folder gating specific portions of your code base is a lot more difficult. And really modern source control encourages reusable code, again, with that central repository. And what we've seen very oftentimes in industrial organizations, is that code can be scattered on C drives. We've seen people have a SharePoint, but still the latest version might be in an email somewhere, or the latest version might be on their C drive. And another employee might be working off an outdated version that's stored in their SharePoint, causing a lot more production issues down the line, a lot of code rewrite. This really just helps clean all of that up. And again, so millions, I'm going to probably touch on this a bit, is that millions and millions of people use Git for their daily workflow. So I'm going to show you some theory of how it works, but rest assured that practice is much simpler than theory for using Git. So again, Git is fully distributed. You'll see here that there's a remote server. And these local instances will be individual computers and engineers. But the whole concept of what Git is doing is essentially pulling and pushing from that remote and keeping that remote up to date. And when you pull down information, let's say local 1 pushes up new information, local 2 would be notified that there's a new version of that file out there, and they can pull that down and update their code base. Local 3 could push that back up, and then local 2 again could see that there's a new update. And then what Git starts to enable is that all of these can start happening simultaneously. And again, it does seem kind of complicated, but again, in practice, it's much simpler. And one cool aspect, again, is having multiple engineers distributed across the world, across different states, on the field, back in the office, pushing same code and making changes to that. And a big question is, how do you prevent chaos from happening? And that really comes down to the concept of branching and merging. So you'll see here on the green aspects that this is little bubbles. These little bubbles are what we call commits or snapshots or save points of your code. So a very big unlock here is going to be this new branch can be a development branch, right? So let's say I wanted to add some kind of feature to my Rockwell file and create a new branch that is a scratch space that I can work on, that I can kind of experiment on and do whatever I need. And once I get approval for that, I can actually then bring that back into the main branch, or what we call merging, and really initiate code review to say, hey, are my changes acceptable? Do other people like my changes? But this action can happen multiple times across different checkpoints in your project. And this is really the process that enables people to work simultaneously on one file, right? For example, in the Rockwell world, what we've seen is someone could be working on an AOI, someone could be working on maybe a routine at the same exact time. They work in different branches, and you can merge all those changes together. So file A plus file B, then you kind of merge them together and you make a new master of file C. So really just, again, simultaneous workflows, multi-user workflows. It also enables you to test features without affecting your main code base. And again, if anything goes wrong, you can just quickly go back to the most previous save point and start again. So it really enables a lot of that agility in your development workflows as well. Again, practice is simpler than theory. We also see a big benefit is daily workflows become streamlined. Most of our customers, what we're seeing on average for the daily engineer, the average engineer, is we're seeing at least around 4 hours a week saved just in tedious tasks. So one example is just right here, they make a save. What Copia does, or any Git application would do, is bring forward the application and then show you the exact difference of that file. And then let's say tomorrow I come back and I want to start on that same project. Instead of me having to open that up in the IDE and really start comparing it on my own, Copia will actually save every difference of that file and allow you to go scan those differences very quickly. So a big benefit is that once you start your workday, you're skipping a lot of tedious processes. So again, we're enabling engineers to engage in just more powerful workflows. Our diff rendering is extremely powerful. Branching, so you can, again, tinker with features. You can collaborate via branching and merging. And over time, again, is implementing a code review process, which also enables code commenting. So if you have an engineer who is not next to you, you can start commenting on code, tagging each other, and figuring out what's going on to make the best project possible. And again, just overall visibility into your code base. You can click through different save points. And the benefit of Copia is in your web browser, you can just quickly see what's going on. So if you're in an instance where you don't have your IDE or something's wrong with it, you can just open up the Copia web app, just go to copia.io to plug in your credentials and exactly see what's going on without having to rely on industrial toolchains. And again, this is a sample of what code review can look like. What we see with organizations that begin to mature with Copia is that it enables just multi-user collaboration. It enables a standardized workflow for how code is reviewed and subsequently deployed. And again, it just really helps with onboarding and training new engineers. So we'll see here, it says, hey, this looks good to me. Did we remove that? Yes, let's do that. And you can really have that real-time collaboration. And all of that collaboration is tracked for future review. So let's say you pushed code out, something went down, you can actually go back and say, hey, what did we do wrong as an organization that led to this outage or led to this disaster, whatever that is? You can go do retros and see exactly kind of where points may have fallen through, and then add that back to, let's say, in-house, SOP to prevent that from happening again. Again, onboarding just in general becomes easier. And when I say onboarding, I also mean new engineers, but I also mean engineers that are hopping between projects. We have seen integration teams and OEMs switch engineers between projects, and just for them to get caught up on that code base just takes some time. So I'm going to give you a quick example of what that looks like. So again, this is pretty standard Git, is that I can see all of my commits. And again, a commit is that save point. And so we'll see here, I put the initial commit, I added the main file, I removed the manual override, kept going back and forth. And this makes it very easy for anyone else to look through the code base and say, hey, I know exactly what Matt is doing. And actually, you know what? Let me go see what he did when he removed that manual override. So if I simply click right on that manual override, it would actually lead me to what changed on that. I can look at just that difference, or I can look at the overall file itself. So again, this process is super easy and super simple for any new engineer who may not be familiar with the code base, whether it's a new hire or whether it's an engineer moving to a different project. We also do help with additional knowledge retention. Another big problem that we saw was, let's say John was at the company for 15, 20 years and he left, and then everyone's like, hey, something went down. We have no idea what to do. Who do we contact at the customer? Again, what was that code base like? What kind of information should we know? Like, is there a central way we can learn all of this? Just two examples of simple tools that we have is a wiki and a README. So this is an example of a README. It actually comes attached to every single repository or folder, and this lives alongside your code base. So what you can do is, hey, here's a description, here's the information, here's some devices that are in here, here's some images, here's what to do, be careful for this, red flag, be careful for this. This will all live alongside your repositories at all times. Even when you download it to your local machine, these READMEs will come down with it and you can open them up and view whatever you need. In addition, it's pretty simple, but it's wikis that live alongside your code base. You can create pages and pages of wikis that kind of go over previous issues, and you can format it however you like, such as, how to install the customer base, issues that we ran into in the very beginning, quirks with the customer, quirks with the machines. You can also just organize everything here. So I put a quick thing of like, hey, this page is called how to get started. Here's the history of the project and why it's important. You can add images and you can kind of make it a very rich library of knowledge that is natively built and lives alongside your code history and your actual code base. And so what we've been seeing from our current customers, and again, this is not only just for Copia customers, but anyone really utilizing Git flows, which we highly encourage, is that they're saying, hey, our engineers are saving half a day of work a week just from general workflow efficiencies. And that their senior engineers are saving up to 1 full day a week of work from just modern code review process. In general, people think Copia is fantastic, but they really enjoy using it and improve their workflows and efficiency. And so what we're seeing here is even just general ICs, general day-to-day engineers are really liking modern tooling, really helping their day-to-day, making it more convenient to work and making it really ultimately safer to write code and to deploy code. And so one case study is our friends at DMC, which I think a lot of people here should be familiar with. The unique aspect of DMC was that they were already using Git, but they were using standard Git tools. Their code review processes were very difficult, and it was just a blocker in the organization. The reason why code review processes were difficult is because there aren't any Git solutions, again, that work natively with industrial file types. In addition, all of this, they just needed a better way to maintain code quality, right? Again, scanning through code, doing code review, making sure everything's up to date, and making sure that people are actually writing the correct code. And so what we saw from a project director there was that Copia is saving their team roughly 8 hours back a month in just code review practices. And again, you'll see it on the right here, this example of kind of what changed. You can again comment, see what's going on. If you did this in Git, every little aspect right here of what you can see in the code would just be a blind file type that you can't really see. So it doesn't really work in that sense. We've also seen other organizations that do code review by hand. So they would print out pieces of paper, they would have it, people would write on it and then get it signed off and then scan it and then put it back into drives. When those organizations shift towards a modern kind of Copia-based, Git-based workflow in Copia, they do also see massive benefits of digitizing those workflows and having that history there permanent. And again, another quote from a project engineer there that has saved them time and headache, while also ensuring that their projects are executed using all software development best practices. Again, I know a lot of this is couched in Copia, but really think of this as this is the beginning of industrial organizations beginning to reap the benefits of Git in their day-to-day workflows. And kind of one aspect I also wanted to touch on next, which has been coming up more, is our device link solution. So device link is really an automated backup solution that's built on top of Copia's source control tool. So imagine you're an integrator, you're about to go out to a field and you don't know what's in that code. You either go in blind or somehow ask for an engineer to send you the latest file in the POC, which is rare. I've actually never seen that happen, but most often you would just go to the plant floor. The first thing you would do is walk up to the POCs and do backup and see what's going on. So all we do is automate that backup and then bring it back into your code repository. And if there's a difference, we'll tell you, hey, something's changed from your customer's POCs and what you have in your code base. And one reason I'm kind of bringing this up today is that a big concept of DevOps is that they're all kind of interconnected. And what Copia does is we provide that Git layer, and our mission is to keep building ergonomic tools on top of that really help with, again, deployment, testing, backing up, code observability, and additional tools kind of on one unified platform. And lately, we've been seeing a spike of interest from integrators and OEMs in particular on how they can potentially integrate device link into their customer sites to really help with technical support and just general upkeep of that customer relationship of how they deliver value. So the way it quickly works, and just to give you a high level of this, is that there's going to be a customer network and an agent that we install. And all that agent does is that it mimics a human being going and doing an upload from that POC. We'll just do that automatically for you. We upload the project file from the POC to the agent, and then from that network, we rely on outbound only communication and then send that to the Copia application. So a big benefit here is this might be on your customer network, you're at your office, and you get an email going, hey, we backed up your customer's device, and there's a big difference. Do you want to reach you? And from that, you can reach out to your customer, you can debug that, you can do whatever you need. But it allows integrators and OEMs to be kind of one step ahead of their customers, right? It's going to be reaching out saying, hey, I know something went wrong. Was this on purpose? Should I be integrating this as my new master copy? Or another example is if your engineers are going on site is, hey, let me make sure that I have the latest versions of that. So once I'm on site, I don't have to spend enough extra time going and manually backing up all my POCs and figuring out what my customer changed and what I already had in my code base. So here's a quick example. This probably looks very familiar and similar to our early diff page. It's because the technology is the same of how we render and view the diffs. So what this is doing essentially is this little project called right to left backed up a POC, compared it to what I deemed as the most recent copy, and then notified me saying, you know what, your customer changed all of these things, and then from there, we prompt you if you want to take action on that, whether you, again, want to incorporate it into your main code base or reject that. And again, this is just a quick way of navigating. So if you have multiple customers with multiple machines, you can actually start going and filtering their names, figuring out if there's jobs with differences, if there's jobs that are failing for some reason. There's a lot of different filtering and mechanisms that you can do here. And so I wanted to bring up, this is the last case study. We're kind of reaching towards the end, is that we worked pretty closely as we launched this product with a global OEM and integrator. And the big thing was, again, it was a lot of finger pointing, right? It's like, I don't know if our team changed the code or if it was the customer. the direct code that we need and want to deliver high quality service. And that's difficult if we can't understand what's running on our customers' machines. So in particular, the eye-opening thing was this organization was fairly large, was that they received tickets. It was between 100 to 150 tickets every month. They told us on average, it took about at least 1 hour just to decipher what was on that POC. Either they'll tunnel into their customers' networks, pull that file, call an engineer, ask them to send it over so that they can start debugging and figuring out what's going on in a customer's machines before they go out. So that was easily 100 to 150 hours a month having their field tech team just trying to figure out what's on their devices. The other aspect was that if changes were not properly communicated back to the OEM, they would go out and say, hey, we're going to go deploy this new version of the code, but they weren't aware that an AOI was different on the POC. They'll go upload their version of the file and wipe out that AOI change, and then, just wreak some more havoc. And then they would have to keep rewriting code, and you would see field techs staying longer and longer out there. So big reason that they would want to use Copia is really rethinking and reorganizing their entire support methodology and the type of value that they're bringing to the customers. It's longer term value. It's going to be potentially, a different revenue model where they have potentially a service model where they have recurring revenue, where they can say, hey, we're going to continuously monitor your machine and figure out a faster way to deploy changes. And again, overwriting code is a big problem. Earlier, I'd mentioned there's overwriting code if you have old versions of it in emails and whatnot. But what we're doing here with device sync as well is marrying what is in your primary development code base alongside the POC code base at your customer's site. Again, I think this part on the very bottom is huge, is that oftentimes they would wipe out changes which reintroduce issues, and it's just overall a big headache. And again, we've been having a lot of positive feedback. The configuration and setup is straightforward. You can quickly schedule backups. And really, I would like to focus on this part as peace of mind and consistent quality. I think that is really a big part of DevOps, is how do we consistently deliver quality, and how do we have peace of mind? And again, how do we kind of scale our team to more efficiently utilize the engineers that we have? And ultimately, kind of nearing the end, is we're seeing that from our existing customers, we are now seeing a lot more of those IT DevOps benefits start to leach over more and more into IT, OT for our current customers. We're seeing shorter project timelines due to the merge tool allowing multiple engineers to work at the same time. Again, preventing code mishap, preventing code rewrite that could delay and push project timelines. We're seeing overall improved quality. So as organizations want to really be best-in-class organizations, it's understanding context of code changes. It's reviewing code to make sure that you deliver the highest quality of code. It's to have retroactive sessions of understanding why certain issues happened by evaluating your code base and then improving your SOP to prevent common code errors from happening again. And ultimately, when I say reduce downtime, really just for your customers is, if you did deploy something incorrectly, you can quickly find the last known good version in Copia's code base. And this is quite simple, but really also just ensuring that you did deploy the correct version of the code. Copia can really help you find the differences very quickly and understand which version of the code is out on the floor. So yeah, this is, again, the common DevOps stack on the right. You have Git-based source control, you have automated backup, and in the future, we're looking at things like automated testing, additional observability of code, potentially, library management of how you reuse code. But the whole concept is how organizations are thinking about their own productivity, their own efficiency gains, and really just trying to drive quality for their organization and their customers. So yeah, so I'm at the end of everything I have here. So I think I'll open it up for questions, and I know our VP of marketing, Darren Henry, can also field anything from our side as well.
Hey, Matt, I do have a few questions. One of them is, can you review the brands of PLC that Copia currently supports?
Yeah, I can send out documentation as well. We do have it at docs.copia.io. I'd have to look it up, but Rockwell, Siemens, Schneider, ABB, Codesys alongside the other Codesys flavors, like other Schneider flavors, Lenza,
Wago.
Wago. Sorry, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now.
I don't know if you said Schneider. I actually did just send out a link to everybody in the chat so they could see the supported vendors, not only the brands, but the versions of the brands that we actually support.
So one thing also to keep in mind is that you can literally store anything in Git. So if you actually store text files, like let's say you had JSON, like object-oriented programming files, we're just using already existing technology. All of that already works in Copia. You can store images. You can see all of the images in Copia, and you can dump literally any file. The link that Darren sent out really is focused more on that specific rendering, which is much more the value add that we have. But again, you can still do all of the awesome version history. You can see who changed the code. You can comment on every one of your changes on like HMI files and other files that we don't support yet for rendering, but you can literally throw anything into Copia. We just support advanced rendering for the ones in that link that Darren sent out.
I have another question about, can Copia work with ticketing systems?
So we do have integrations. Again, another big powerful thing about Git is that it's already universal. And there are a ton of already integrations that are built for Git. And so we can kind of dive in together, whoever has that question, depending on what you have. But for example, we already have a fully tested Jira integration. We do also have our own issues and milestones that are, live alongside a repository. So we even have our own kind of issue tracking system. But if there's additional more ticketing things like, help desk or whatnot, they generally should have Git integrations. And it's something that we can certainly look into together.
Great. There's another question about what security measures does Copia take to protect the data?
So this is a great question because we are SOC 2 compliant. And for those who are not familiar with SOC 2, it's kind of one of the gold standards for security and privacy in the IT space. I'll tell you, it is grueling. Part of it is that we need to have really good source control, that we need to have everything encrypted. Our employees' laptops are encrypted, like we can remotely erase anything from customers. We also do primarily use AWS for our shared tenant model, which is also SOC 2 compliant and one of the most secure cloud platforms out there. But for Copia itself, we are SOC 2 compliant, which is a very big a milestone for us as well, which sets us apart from a lot of other software companies. If you're interested as well, you can certainly email me, and I'm more than happy to share with you our security portal, which talks about the actual specific measures that we take. And you can actually request information directly from our SOC 2 report as well.
Great. And the last question I have is, there's actually two questions about this, is just how is it priced? How do you purchase something like Copia?
Yeah, so in general, we price it per seat. There are certain different models. Our enterprise model, which most of our customers are going for right now, is probably going to be, I would say, roughly around $1,000 a year per user. But again, pricing differs. There's volume pricing, and we do work closely with integrators, as we know that the pricing can get different as you guys have typically will have a lot more developers. And there's also different forms of pricing for how you want to deploy it. But generally, just think about it as a per seat pricing. And it's only for right users. So anyone who's actively pushing code to Copia would have to have a seat. But if you want to only do read only, just look at the files, that's unlimited. So if you had subcontractors who just want to look at files, you can just invite them to your code base for free. And the licenses are also floating as well. So again, if you had 25 engineers, but typically only 12 work at a time, what we've seen is you buy 15 and you can just float the licenses around. It's very easy. We have a pretty modern interface.
Great. Well, that was the last question, but I do want to point out in your presentation, we did talk about DMC as they're a great customer of ours. In their latest conversations with us, they said they're saving up to a day a week in senior control engineers' time in checking code. I think we might have understated that in the presentation, but there is a case study available on our website. If you're interested, you can download that right from our homepage, which is Copia.io. But Matt, I don't see any other questions. So
Actually, Darren,
Yep.
I don't mean to call you a liar, but one just did pop through. So you
Okay.
might want to double check that one.
Oh, I see LabVIEW. So it's funny. So I can't give you a timeline on that, but I would say we do have 2 former National Instruments engineers on our team, and one somewhat more recently that came directly from NI to us. And we have been talking about LabVIEW for a while, so I can't give you a guaranteed timeline on that, but it is something that we'll get to. Like the goal really is to cover everything on the industrial side, right? And so, and would love for you to reach out to me, and we can get discussions going and add that to the feature request. We do take feature requests very seriously. We do also publish every new feature that we push out, every new vendor. We do have like an upvote, downvote system if you liked it or not. So we really focus on, I call it user empathy, really just going, hey, what are we really building? How are we listening? And really working alongside the industry. We don't want to come in and tell you you're wrong. We want to come in and listen to you and build alongside you.
Yeah, and then one last question just came in. How difficult is it to add licenses, and are there any free trials?
Oh yeah, there are free trials. It's a 2-week free trial. You can we can send out a link. Generally, the process is there'll be a quick intro with an SDR to make sure that you know, things are great, that you understand what's going on, and then we can get you on a free 2-week free trial. Adding user license is also pretty easy. You can just send us a quick email, and we can add that for you pretty easily. Seat management is pretty easy in Copia.
Great. Now the questions are starting to roll in at a higher rate. I don't see Rockwell HMI on the list. Plans to build up that capability.
Again, yes. The HMI side, right now we're focusing on the PLCs first. Again, no timelines on HMIs, but HMIs have become a very large feature request, and it is something that we're taking into account very strongly of when to start prioritizing that as well. So it is, trust me, the HMIs, I've been hearing about it from day one, and we're going to iron out some of the PLC stuff first, and then also work on HMIs for both Rockwell, Siemens, and you know, any of the major providers as well.
Yeah, and I do think it's important to point out, Matt, that for HMI, we do track the files, obviously with Git, and some HMI is written in XML or HTML5, and we do have the capability to render any text file as well. I inherit in Git, but a lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
Again, you can store anything on there. Anything that's natively text-based will show the differences of those actual XML files. I know that HMIs do have some further complexity, but you know, you can even put all of your SCADA information on there. There's a lot of JSON based, and we can just compare everything. So again, we technically support everything, but advanced rendering is more for the PLCs.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks, guys. I have a few closing comments, but while I'm doing these, I would like for one of you guys to post the link to the free trial in the chat. I assume it's something like copia.com free trial or some sort of friendly URL, but if you could put that in the chat, that'd be super helpful for the users, or even if you want to just say it out loud, then we have it in the audio file for those who may be watching the recording. What's the vanity URL for the free trial?
Darren, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, let me go ahead and just post it. It's actually copia.io/SL-trial-signup. So a little bit of a longer URL, but I did post it. And if you go to copia.io, for those of you who are just listening and can't see the chat, you'll see a big red button right on the top right that says try for free.
Thank you. Okay, well, on behalf of CSIA, I would like to thank our speaker, Matt, for this informative discussion. I would also like to thank Copia for sponsoring this event. And of course, thank you for attending. The next upcoming event is March 15th at 10. The title of that presentation is Practical Rapid Time to Results OT to SAP Integration. See it built live. That's sponsored by Software Toolbox. You can find that information as well as information about other upcoming events on our website at www.controlsys.org/events. And that is it for today. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.